social media video shows 4 Madison police officers struggling to detain a male suspect on Wednesday. One officer attempts to tase him, then another shoots him 3 times, about 2 seconds later.
MPD officers were dispatched to a call just before 1 p.m.
Stop scrolling. What you are about to see is the exact 2-second mistake that caused an entire city to absolutely melt down.
Video shows officers throwing a knife to the ground after the shooting. Chief Patterson said 2 officers were injured and the suspect died at the hospital. On Wednesday night, demonstrators gathered to protest the shooting at the Wisconsin state capitol, interrupting a summer concert event.
Young black man has been murdered at 2 o'clock p.m. by the Madison Police Department, and you guys are out here having steak and chicken and nothing happened.
Wait, did you catch that? Look closely at the people sitting at the tables in the background. You have a massive crowd marching straight through what looks like a quiet summer dinner event, and the sheer disconnect between the 2 groups is wild. Some diners are literally just continuing to eat their food while a megaphone is blaring inches from their ears. It's this surreal clash of 2 completely different realities happening on the exact same pavement. What's fascinating from a psychological standpoint is how people react to sudden chaos. You see a few pulling out their phones to record, typical modern response, but others are rigidly ignoring it, almost as if acknowledging the disruption gives it power. When you break down the crowd dynamics here, it's a textbook example of social friction. The organizers clearly chose this specific spot for maximum discomfort, forcing a captive audience to absorb their message. Whether you agree with the tactics or not, from a pure strategy level, disrupting a relaxed upper-class environment guarantees you're going to get an emotional response, and more importantly, camera time.
Then another shoots him 3 times, about 2 seconds later.
MPD officers were dispatched to a call just before.
Let's rewind and look at the actual street footage, because the tactical breakdown here is intense. Notice the positioning of the officers right before everything escalates. You have multiple people trying to control a single chaotic element, and that's where the communication completely breaks down. One officer goes for the taser. You can actually see the deployment, but immediately after, it goes horribly wrong. When multiple tasers are pulled, or when one fails to connect with the target properly, panic sets in instantly. The shift from non-lethal to lethal happens in literally 2 seconds. It's a terrifying window into how fast a standard apprehension turns into a worst-case scenario. Also, pay attention to the officer on the far right. His body language completely shifts the moment the situation goes sideways. There's a massive debate right now about protocol and whether this could have been handled differently with better spacing or verbal commands. But when you look at the raw speed of this altercation, it highlights just how microscopic the margin for error is out there on the asphalt.
Video shows officers throwing a knife to the ground after the shooting. Chief Patterson said 2 officers were injured and the suspect died at the hospital. On Wednesday night, demonstrators gathered to protest the shooting at the Wisconsin state capitol.
Look right there, just near the front tire of the bicycle. That small metallic object on the asphalt is what this entire situation hinges on. That is allegedly the knife the suspect pulled, completely changing the threat level of the encounter. But what's really sparking outrage isn't just the altercation itself, it's what happens immediately after the threat is neutralized. Watch the officer's movements once the suspect is down. There's a highly controversial claim floating around that they failed to render immediate medical aid and instead focused entirely on securing the perimeter and treating their own injured officer. From a procedural standpoint, securing the weapon and the scene is step 1, but the public expectation is instant life-saving measures. This is exactly where the friction between police training and civilian optics reaches a boiling point. The crowd sees a lack of empathy. The officers see an active, unsecured crime scene. It's this massive disconnect in real-time crisis management that ends up fueling the exact kind of protests we just watched.
A man died at the hands of state-sanctioned violence.
He was fucking murdered. Say it.
Say it. It was murder. It was murder.
Executed.
Say it.
This
It was murder.
is my statement.
It was murder.
This state-sanctioned violence was an execution.
Now check out the rhetoric being used here. This isn't just a random person in the crowd. This is a state politician holding the megaphone, and her choice of words is incredibly deliberate. Listen to how she frames the entire event. She doesn't just call it a tragedy or a mistake. She actively labels it a state-sanctioned execution. That is a massive, highly charged escalation in language. When an elected official uses that specific terminology, it completely bypasses any ongoing independent investigation and immediately validates the most extreme emotions of the crowd. It's a masterclass in political opportunism, right in the middle of a volatile situation. By shouting those exact words, she's not trying to calm the waters. She's throwing a match onto gasoline. It's fascinating to watch how raw tragedy gets instantly weaponized for political capital. The moment those words leave her mouth, the narrative shifts from a chaotic street altercation to a deliberate, systemic plot, totally changing the trajectory of the public outrage.
Madison Police Chief John Patterson said the suspect fled the initial scene on a bicycle before those 4 officers re-encountered him around 1:30, and a fight ensued.
During the struggle, the man, we're told, pulled out a knife, and an officer was injured by this while attempting to arrest him. The taser was deployed. Unfortunately, it was unsuccessful.
Let's jump back to how this entire pursuit actually started, because this context is completely missing from the viral clips. Watch this guy navigating through heavy daytime traffic on a bicycle. He is actively fleeing the initial scene. When a suspect is mobile like this, weaving between cars, it creates a massive logistical nightmare for law enforcement. You can't just perform a pit maneuver on a bike, and a foot chase in active traffic is incredibly dangerous for everyone involved. Notice the sheer unpredictability of his path. This erratic movement forces the officers to constantly recalculate their intercept vectors while dodging civilian vehicles. The adrenaline is already spiking before the physical confrontation even begins. This brief chase phase is critical because it sets the baseline tension. By the time they actually make physical contact on the asphalt, both the suspect and the officers are already operating at peak stress levels. It perfectly illustrates how a seemingly slow-speed pursuit can rapidly compound into a high-stakes, fatal encounter. Take a look at this wider angle of the disruption. We've moved past the megaphone and are now looking at the sheer volume of the crowd pressing into this dining space. Look at the body language of the people sitting down. Some have their arms crossed, staring straight ahead, completely refusing to make eye contact with the protesters. It is a literal standoff of endurance. The chanters are using physical proximity and overwhelming volume to break the social contract of this private event. What is striking is the absolute polarization captured in a single frame. On one side, you have raw, unfiltered, organized anger demanding immediate systemic change. On the other side, you have defensive apathy, people just trying to finish their meals while a movement literally surrounds their tables. In modern protests, the goal is no longer just to march down an empty street. The goal is to create inescapable, high-definition friction. This footage right here is the ultimate visual representation of a fractured society clashing in real time. Hit that follow button if you want more raw breakdowns like this, and tell me what you think in the comments.